The Fall of the Princess. HFY Sci-Fi story. The twin sons of Aerith were sinking behind the crystal cliffs, their golden light spilling across the royal city like fire. The people gathered in silence, standing on the edge of the grand cliff, waiting to watch the punishment of the one they once called their princess. Her name was Lyra Velnar, youngest heir of the Aerith Empire. Her eyes were silver, her skin marked with faint glowing lines of royal blood. Once songs were sung about her kindness. Now whispers filled the air. Traitor, enemy, lover, protector of humans. 15 years ago, the galaxy was at war. The Aerith Empire ruled hundreds of worlds, and humanity was new to the stars, fragile but stubborn. The Council of Aerith saw humans as dangerous animals, spreading fast, uncontrolled, refusing to bow to their ancient rule. But Lyra had seen something different. She had seen mercy, she had seen courage. When the Aerith fleet burned a human colony named Sindar's Reach, Lyra had broken every royal law. She had secretly helped survivors escape, sending human children through forbidden portals, risking her title, her power, her life. But secrets never stay hidden in royal halls. The High Council found her guilty of treason. Their judgment was cruel. She was to be erased, her name removed from the records, her body thrown from the sacred cliffs into the endless abyss. As guards dragged her forward, Lyra's chains glowed with energy. Her wings, thin membranes of light, were torn and broken. She tried to speak, but the roar of the crowd drowned her voice. Her father, the Emperor, stood cold and silent. The Queen had turned her face away. Only the stars heard Lyra's last words, whispered in a trembling voice. "You call them monsters, but they are more human than we will ever be." Then the guards pushed her. The crowd gasped as her body fell into the glowing mists below, swallowed by endless light. Some cheered, some cried, but none looked down. None saw the broken beacon that flickered once among the rocks. Far below, the winds howled through the deep canyons. Lyra's body struck the cliffside. Her blood shimmered like starlight. Her last thought before the darkness claimed her was of the small boy she had once saved, a human child who had smiled at her through tears and called her angel. The beacon blinked weakly, sending out a signal into the void. A signal no one noticed, except for one distant receiver on a forgotten world. Years passed. The galaxy moved on. The Council grew more powerful. Humanity vanished from the core systems, hunted, scattered, surviving only in the shadows of ruined colonies. But somewhere deep in the wastelands of space, a man named Ethan Cole sat inside a rusted human ship. His hands were scarred, his eyes tired. He had fought in the War of Cinders as a child soldier. He remembered the fire, the screams, and the one alien who saved him, a silver-eyed princess who had defied her own empire to protect him. Most believed she was dead, but Ethan never forgot. He had grown into a scavenger, moving between broken worlds, searching for old signals, lost tech and whispers of the past. One night, as his ship drifted through a dead sector near Aerith's border, his scanner beeped. The signal was ancient, buried under 15 years of dust and silence. The computer translated it slowly. The words appeared on his cracked screen. Royal Beacon Code A3 Lyra V. Ethan froze. His heart pounded. "It can't be," he whispered. He replayed it again and again. The signal was weak but alive, coming from the forbidden cliffs of Aerith itself, the same place she had fallen. He stared at the coordinates. The system was cursed. Forbidden to all species, even humans, rumors said. Ships that entered never returned. But Ethan didn't care. For 15 years. He had carried the memory of that silver-eyed alien who called him child of courage. He stood slowly and whispered, "If you're still alive, princess." "I'm coming." The engines of his ship groaned to life. The old human freighter lifted off from the asteroid plain, leaving behind a trail of dust and broken metal. The stars stretched before him and cold, endless and waiting as the ship entered warp. The signal flickered again, stronger this time. Somewhere, deep within the abyss of the forbidden cliffs, a faint pulse of light answered him like a heartbeat. Lyra's body, hidden within a cocoon of crystal, began to glow. Her stasis field had never failed. It had only slowed time. 15 years had passed, but for her, it had been a single breath, a single dream. The galaxy had forgotten her, but one human had not, and soon, their destinies would meet again. The human who returned. HFY Sci-Fi story. The human ship Endeavor's ghost cut through the silence of space. Its metal hull scarred from old wars. Inside, Ethan Cole sat at the controls, eyes locked on the glowing beacon signal. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat calling from across 15 long years. He had crossed dead sectors, asteroid fields, and broken jump gates to reach this cursed place. The charts called it Sector 9X Arethan Abyss, a forbidden world surrounded by gravity storms and strange energy waves. Many who entered here were never seen again, but Ethan didn't care. His ship rattled as it entered the planet's upper atmosphere. Lightning arced across the clouds, turning night into white fire. "Easy, old girl," he whispered to the ship. Gripping the controls tight, the computer screamed with warnings. But Ethan pushed through when the storm cleared. He saw it, the grand cliff of Aerith, still shining under twin suns, but now half buried in time and sand. The royal towers had fallen. Vines crawled across broken spires, and silence ruled the land that once sang with pride. The beacon signal grew stronger as Ethan descended. He landed his ship near the edge of a deep canyon filled with blue mist. Wind howled through the rocks, carrying whispers that almost sounded like voices. He stepped outside, his boots crunching against the silver sand. The air was thin but breathable. His suit flickered with warning lights. Radiation, unstable gravity, unknown energy. Still, he pressed on, following the blinking tracker on his wrist. Every step brought him deeper into the canyon. The ground trembled under his feet. Ancient machines hummed beneath the surface, like they were alive. He passed shattered statues of alien kings, their faces carved in sorrow. Finally, he reached a hidden cave mouth, half sealed by crystal and stone. The beacon was inside, glowing faintly like a dying star. Ethan took a breath and stepped through inside. The cave walls shimmered with alien metal, symbols glowing faintly as he passed. At the center of the chamber stood a large stasis pod, cracked and covered in frost. Its surface bore royal markings. The crest of House Velnar. His heart stopped. He brushed away the dust with his hand, revealing a name burned faintly into the glass. Lyra Velnar, Royal Protocol active. Ethan's voice shook. "You really survived." He checked the control panel. The power source was ancient, nearly dead with trembling fingers. He rewired his portable energy cell into the old alien tech. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and suddenly the pod hissed. Mist filled the chamber. A soft light spread through the air and a figure began to move inside the pod. Ethan stepped back as the glass lifted with a slow, echoing sound. Inside lay Lyra, her skin pale as moonlight, her silver eyes closed, her body untouched by age. She was still the same as the day she fell. Her chest rose sharply as she gasped for air. Her eyes opened, and she saw a human. For a moment, everything froze. Her heart raced, her vision blurred, old memories flooded back. The council screaming, humans burning, betrayal, fear, death. She tried to move, her body weak, but when she saw Ethan's human face, panic took over. Her voice cracked. "Stay away from me, monster." Ethan raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly, but she couldn't hear reason. To her, his presence meant danger, war, pain. She swung her hand weakly. Energy crackled from her fingertips, missing him by inches. The blast hit the wall, sending crystals flying. Ethan ducked and shouted, "Stop! I came to save you!" Her strength faded, her body trembling. She tried to stand but collapsed. Ethan ran forward and caught her before she hit the ground. For a long moment she lay in his arms, breathing fast, eyes full of fear. He looked at her, the alien princess who once saved him as a boy. She didn't recognize him yet, but he remembered her clearly. The night she shielded him from soldiers. He whispered, "You saved me once, Lyra." Her eyes widened at her name. She stared up at him, confused. "Who are you?" He smiled faintly. A ghost from the past, hours later. Lyra woke again inside Ethan's ship, wrapped in a blanket. The air smelled of old metal and coffee. She saw strange human symbols flashing on the ship's walls. The hum of the engines was steady and deep. She tried to sit up. Pain running through her arms, Ethan appeared, holding a metal cup of water. "Easy, princess," he said. "You've been asleep for a long time." Her voice was soft, trembling. Why did you save me?" He looked at her quietly. "Because 15 years ago, you saved me." She turned away. Unable to believe it, humans were supposed to be brutal, selfish wild creatures. Yet this one looked at her not with hatred but with care. She remembered flashes. A human child she had helped, small hands reaching for hers. A promise whispered through fire. "Ethan," she whispered, testing the name that echoed in her old memories. He nodded slowly, surprised that she remembered. She looked at him, her silver eyes full of confusion and pain. "The galaxy hates your kind," she said. "If they find out you helped me, they will kill you." Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "Then they better not find us." Outside, the ship's radar blinked, unknown signals appearing at the edge of the system. Something old had awakened, something watching. The Royal Beacon's activation had not gone unnoticed, and deep in the void above Aerith, warships began to move. The memory of fear. HFY Sci-Fi story. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Soft and endless, the old freighter drifted through the darkness between worlds, its lights flickering like tired stars. Inside, Lyra Velnar sat by the viewport, watching the stars blur past. Her reflection looked strange to her, pale and uncertain, like a ghost of someone who had once been royal, once been powerful. 15 years had passed, but to her it felt like only yesterday. The last memory she had before waking was falling. The crowd screaming, the wind tearing her wings apart, the feeling of betrayal from her own people. Then nothing, only dreams of light and pain. Now she was alive again, inside a human ship, rescued by the one species her kind had called dangerous, barbaric, unclean. She looked across the small cabin, where Ethan Cole sat repairing a control panel with a broken tool. His jacket was torn, his face marked by old scars. His movements were careful. Patient, Lyra watched him quietly, trying to understand him. Humans were supposed to be violent, full of anger. But this one, this strange man, had risked everything to save her. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft. "You knew who I was," Ethan nodded, not looking up. "Everyone knew the Princess of Aerith," he said. "You were the only one who tried to stop the war," she frowned. "And they threw me off a cliff for it." He gave a small, sad smile. "People fear what they don't understand." The words cut deep. Lyra looked down at her hands, her glowing royal lines dim. "I was told humans could not feel compassion," she said. "That your kind burned planets for sport." Ethan chuckled quietly. "Maybe some did," he said, "but so did yours." That silence between them was heavy, filled with the weight of two dying civilizations. Later, as the ship floated through an asteroid field, Lyra walked into the storage bay, her legs still weak but her mind restless. She found a broken hologram unit on the table. She pressed a button, and a flicker of light appeared. A small child, laughing, holding a tiny flag, her eyes widened. She remembered him. A boy crying amid burning ruins, his small hand reaching toward her as soldiers shouted to kill him. She had stood between him and her guards, shouting, "No one touches him!" The memory came like thunder. Her breath caught. She whispered, "You were that child." Ethan froze, the tool dropping from his hand. He turned slowly, his voice quiet. "You remember." Lyra's hands trembled. "I do," she said. "You were so small. I thought you died when the colony burned." Ethan shook his head. "You saved me," he said. "You risked everything for a boy you didn't know." She stepped closer, her voice almost breaking. "And you came back for me." He nodded. 15 years is a long time, Princess, but a debt like that doesn't fade." Her eyes filled with tears she didn't understand. Her heart was confused, fear and gratitude twisting together. She whispered, "I don't deserve saving." Ethan looked at her, his voice calm. "Maybe not, but you deserved a chance." Hours passed, but sleep didn't come easily. Lyra lay in the small cabin, staring at the ceiling as the ship groaned around her. She could feel the faint vibration of the engines and the soft hum of human technology, so different from the smooth perfection of Aerith ships. Every sound reminded her she was far from home. But for the first time she didn't feel afraid. She turned her head and looked at the small device Ethan had left beside her bed. It projected a faint blue map of stars, routes he had traveled, lost worlds he had searched. Each mark was a place he had looked for her. There were hundreds of them. A quiet ache grew in her chest. She realized this man had spent half his life chasing a faint signal, just to find her. But peace never lasts long in a cursed galaxy. Far above, in the cold halls of the Aerith Council, alarms began to sound. Monitors flickered with old codes. One of the elders turned pale. This can't be," he whispered. "Her royal beacon is active." Another slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible, she died 15 years ago." The Emperor's hologram appeared, his voice cold. "Then why do I see her signature on our satellites?" They looked at the readings. The signal came from the outer rim, Near the forbidden cliffs, send the purifiers, the Emperor ordered. Erase every trace, no witnesses, the council bowed. Fear in their eyes, back aboard Endeavor's Ghost, Lyra sat beside Ethan as the ship drifted through a nebula of golden gas. The stars looked peaceful, like soft embers of forgotten worlds. Ethan pointed at one of the glowing clouds. That's the Veil of Embers, he said. Used to be a mining colony before your people bombed it. Lyra looked down, guilt crossing her face. I remember the reports, she said softly. I tried to stop it, but no one listened. Ethan nodded. Maybe now. Someone will. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the hum of the engines. The quiet between them was no longer made of fear, but of understanding. Then suddenly the radar alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Ethan jumped to the controls. We've got incoming signatures, Aerith warships. Lyra's heart froze. They found us, she whispered. Ethan clenched his jaw. They're coming fast. Lyra looked out the window. Distant lights approaching like falling stars. Her voice trembled. You should leave me here. If they see you with me, they'll destroy you. Ethan shook his head. I didn't come this far to run. He pulled the lever. Engines roaring. The ship turned sharply, diving into the nebula. Trails of light following behind outside. Beams of plasma fire cut through the mist, chasing them. The chase had begun. Lyra gripped the seat, fear burning in her chest. But somewhere inside that fear, a spark of strength was waking. She whispered, if they want war, then they'll see what I've learned from humans. The Council's Wrath, HFY Sci-Fi story. The Endeavor's Ghost shot through the golden mist. Engines burning blue fire. Behind it, 5 Aerith warships sliced through the nebula like glowing knives. Their weapons locked, their pilots silent, obeying one command: destroy the princess and the human who found her. Inside the small human ship, alarms screamed. Red lights flashing across every wall. Ethan Cole gripped the flight controls, sweat running down his face. They're faster than us, he muttered. But maybe not smarter. Lyra Velnar stood beside him, still weak but glowing faintly with royal energy. Her voice was sharp. You cannot outrun the Council. They have quantum drives. They will corner us. Ethan smiled slightly. Then we don't run. We hide. He threw the ship into a dive toward a cluster of drifting asteroid fragments. The hull scraped against rock, sparks flying. The larger ships tried to follow, but their size slowed them. The human ship vanished into a dense cloud of magnetic dust. Lyra stumbled, catching the side rail. Your flying is madness, she said breathlessly. Ethan laughed under his breath. That's what humans do best. In the silence that followed, the hum of the engines lowered to a soft purr. Ethan cut power to the thrusters, letting the ship drift between the shadows of 2 massive asteroids. From the outside, they were invisible. Lyra watched the human work, calm, quick, focused. He used wires and tools she didn't understand, yet he made broken systems come alive again. She realized something strange. His species built with chaos, but that chaos always survived. Her voice softened. They will scan for us soon. He nodded. I know. That's why I need your help. He handed her a small device, a sphere pulsing faint blue. That beacon of yours still sends a royal signal. If we change its pattern, we can trick their sensors. Lyra hesitated. You trust me with this? Ethan met her eyes. You trusted me first. 15 years ago, something in his words made her heart tighten. She placed her hand over the device, her royal markings lighting up. Energy threads spun through the air. Forming strange alien symbols, the beacon changed tone, shifting from blue to silver. Outside, the pursuing ship slowed, their scanners suddenly confused. The distorted code made them see dozens of false signals all around. On the command bridge of the lead warship, an alien officer shouted, multiple readings. The beacon has split. Before he could finish, the ship shook violently. An asteroid struck its hull. The debris field collapsed, trapping 2 warships inside. Back inside the Endeavor's Ghost, Ethan laughed. Nice work. Princess? Lyra gave a small smile, the first real one since she'd awakened. Perhaps humans are not the only ones who can improvise. Ethan turned toward her. You're learning fast. Before either could speak again, the ship jolted. An energy beam grazed their tail. One remaining cruiser had broken through the interference. Lyra grabbed a console. They found us, Ethan cursed. Hold on. The ship spun, rolling between rocks, plasma bolts flashing around them. Every hit shook the hull, warning lights turning crimson. The human's hands moved fast, flipping switches. Rerouting power, pushing the ship beyond safety limits, Lyra felt the pull of gravity tearing at her chest. The roar of the engines filled the air like thunder. The cruiser loomed behind them, charging its main cannon. "Ethan," she shouted, "if that weapon fires—" "We are finished," he smiled through the chaos. "Then stop it." Lyra looked at the energy grid, her fingers glowing. She reached deep into the alien systems of her old empire, speaking in a forgotten royal code. The cruiser's main gun flickered, then went dark. On the enemy bridge, panic spread. "She's overriding the royal protocols," shouted one of the officers. Lyra's voice echoed through their speakers. Cold and calm. "You call yourselves loyal, but loyalty built on fear will always fall." The power surge overloaded their system. A chain reaction rippled through the fleet, one explosion following another. When silence returned, the nebula glowed with drifting metal and sparks of dying ships. Ethan slumped back in his seat, breathing hard. "Remind me never to make you angry." Lyra looked at the fading light of the explosions, her expression unreadable. "They were once my people," she whispered. "Now they are slaves to the Council's lies." Ethan nodded quietly. "That's why we fight back." Lyra turned to him slowly. "We?" He smiled. "You think I'm letting you go now?" "We're in this together," she wanted to argue, to tell him he didn't understand what danger followed her. But something inside her, something she thought had died, whispered that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. Hours later, the ship drifted near the ruins of an old station. Ethan powered down to hide from further scans. Lyra sat near the viewport, the stars reflecting in her silver eyes. She spoke quietly. "When I fell, I thought no one would ever remember me, that the galaxy would move on, but you came?" Ethan looked at her. "You remembered me first, Princess. I just returned the favor." A small silence grew between them. Not awkward, but warm. Outside, the nebula cleared, revealing distant stars and a faint glow. The path toward the human frontier. Ethan's voice was low. "We can go there, to the outer colonies. Humanity's still alive out there. They'll protect you." Lyra shook her head. "No, the Council will follow, and if they find your people, they will destroy them too." Ethan met her gaze, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we fight back. Together." She studied him for a long time. The human she once feared now standing like a wall between her and death. Her lips curved slightly. "Very well, human, but if we fall as one," he grinned. "Deal." Far away, on the broken bridge of the last surviving Aerith ship, a dying officer whispered into a communicator. "The princess lives, the human protects her." In the dark, a shadowy figure stepped forward, eyes glowing crimson. "Then the galaxy will burn again," he said. The signal was sent, spreading through the stars like fire. The hunt had only begun. The rise of the princess. HFY Sci-Fi story. The void was quiet. Too quiet, the Endeavor's ghost drifted in darkness, its engines silent. Only the soft pulse of emergency lights painted red shadows across the metal walls. Ethan Cole sat at the navigation panel, eyes scanning the dying systems. His voice was low, tired. "Power cells are almost gone. We can't outrun them anymore." Lyra Velnar stood near the viewport, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of a distant star. "They won't stop," she whispered. "The Council fears what I know. They'll burn every system to keep their lies hidden." Ethan looked up. "Then maybe it's time the galaxy heard the truth." She turned toward him, uncertain. "What truth?" He smiled faintly. "That the empire they worship is built on fear, that humanity was never their enemy, and that one human and one alien can change everything." For a moment, she said nothing, then slowly nodded. "Then let's give them a message they can never erase." Hours later, the ship descended toward a dead world, an ancient relay station once used by Aerith fleets. Now forgotten, broken, and silent. They landed among rusted towers and cracked metal planes. The wind howled, carrying dust like gray ash. Ethan carried a power core on his shoulder while Lyra walked beside him, her markings glowing again for the first time since her fall. Inside the ruins, they found the old transmission room, its massive antenna still reaching toward the stars. Ethan began rewiring the controls while Lyra placed her hand on the crystal console. "I can reach the entire network," she said softly. "Every ship, every world connected to the Aerith grid will hear us." Ethan looked at her. "Are you sure you want this?" Once they know you live, they'll come with everything they have. Lyra smiled. They already are. She closed her eyes, energy flowing through her skin. The console blazed with light, her voice filled the stars. Carried on frequencies older than any empire. People of the galaxy, she said, her tone calm but fierce. I am Lyra Velnar, daughter of Aerith, once called traitor, now witness to truth. For 15 years. You were told I died for betrayal, but I lived. Hidden, forgotten, saved by the one race you were taught to fear. Humanity is not your enemy. They are the spark that the darkness could not kill. Her words echoed through ships, stations, and worlds. Spreading like wildfire, the Council panicked, intercepting the broadcast, trying to cut the signal. But her codes were royal, unbreakable. On a dozen planets, alien citizens stopped their work. Listening, soldiers lowered their weapons, wondering if everything they knew was a lie. Ethan stood beside her, watching as her courage filled the airwaves. He felt something stir inside, pride, hope, the same fire that had made humanity fight impossible wars. But hope always draws enemies above the dead world. A shadow appeared. The Council's dreadnought, a fortress the size of a city. Weapons charged, engines burning like suns. The Emperor himself was aboard. He looked at the screen, fury twisting his face. End her transmission, he ordered, now. The dreadnought's cannons lit up. Fire rained down toward the planet. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. They've found us, we need to move. She shook her head. No, if I stop now, the message dies. He clenched his fists. Then we make them listen longer. He sprinted to the ship, activating the defense grid. The Endeavor's ghost rose into the sky, its shields glowing faint blue. It looked tiny compared to the dreadnought, but Ethan didn't care. He flew straight toward it. Weaving through the storms, Lyra's voice still echoed across the galaxy. The time of fear is over. Humanity has shown me courage. Compassion and strength, together we will rise. The dreadnought fired, massive beams cutting through the clouds. The Endeavor's ghost dodged 1-2, then took a direct hit. Alarms screaming. The hull cracked, flames spread through the corridor. Ethan shouted over the noise, Princess! We can't take another hit. Lyra gripped the console, her markings burning like stars. Then let's end it. She reached deep into the communication grid, overriding every ship in the enemy fleet. The dreadnought's lights flickered. Its weapons powered down, the Emperor shouted. She's inside our systems, stop her. Lyra's voice came through his speakers, calm as ice. Your empire ends today. She sent one last pulse of energy through the relay. The dreadnought's core overloaded. Explosions rippled through the ship. Flames swallowed the sky. When the smoke cleared, the Endeavor's ghost floated among the wreckage. Engines barely alive, Ethan coughed, his voice weak. You did it. Lyra looked out at the drifting remains of the dreadnought. No, she said softly. We did it. She turned back to the console and sent one final transmission, her voice echoing across the stars. To every world that still believes in fear, remember this day. Humanity and Aerith fought side by side, and the galaxy lived. Weeks later, whispers spread across the outer rim. Stories of a human pilot and a silver-eyed princess who destroyed a dreadnought alone. Some said they died in the blast. Others said they vanished into the stars. But in a quiet corner of space near the edge of the unknown, a small ship glided through the light of a newborn sun. Inside, two figures stood by the window, a man with tired eyes, and a woman with silver skin that shimmered like dawn. Ethan smiled. Where to next, princess? Lyra looked at the stars ahead, her voice calm. Anywhere the truth needs to be heard. The engines flared. The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only a trail of light, a symbol of hope. The human who returned and the alien princess who rose again had become legends. The end. Humanity. Forever. HFY.